Happy Monday, Eagles fans, and welcome to the first episode of Eagles Latest this week. We've got plenty to talk about here as the NFL offseason continues. Glad that you can make me a part of your afternoon here on Fan Arch. Cory Nidoh with you, and we're going to get right to it as Howie Roseman broke some news yesterday at the NFL owners meeting and announced that the Eagles signed a former first-round pick and edge rusher in Joe Tryon Shoyinka. It's a mouthful to say, but the 26-year-old was a former first-round pick in 2021 out of Washington by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was the 32nd overall selection, and he played 4 seasons in Tampa. He split last season between Chicago and Cleveland, but the production has dropped significantly since becoming a pro. He had a solid few years with Tampa, racking up 13 sacks in his first 3 seasons with the Buccaneers from 21 to 23, but in 2024 he only had 2 sacks, 4 quarterback hits, and then he was traded last season to Chicago, and then he ended the year in Cleveland and did not register a sack with either the Bears or the Browns. Now, Tryon Shoyinka does have good size. He's 6'5", about 260 pounds, but again, has not lived up to that draft bill status of a first-round pick. But this is the typical moves we've been seeing from Howie Roseman as of late, is taking a flyer on a high upside guy that just hasn't panned out. Again, former first-round pick. He's got the pedigree, and the Eagles are buying low on another edge rusher to provide some depth at the very least, something that we've seen them do in the past. Last season it was with Josh Uche, hoping that they could tap into his success that he had earlier in his career with the New England Patriots. You also had Olajari as well. So, I mean, there's guys that the Eagles are trying to pluck off of free agency to just kind of round out the edges of this roster and try and just find some guys that might be able to provide a spark. And Tryon Shoyinka trying to resurrect his career a little bit, and he will try to do so with one of the top teams in the NFC. So he'll join an edge rush room that, also they brought in Arnold Ebiketie, who was with the Atlanta Falcons, and those two joined Jalix Hunt and Nolan Smith in that edge room right now. Obviously, Nakobe Dean went to Las Vegas, and obviously Jalen Phillips, who was kind of the big ticket item for the Eagles, he signed that massive deal with Carolina as soon as NFL free agency started. So Howie Roseman trying to kind of build a blend and add some depth to that edge rushing room with another 1-year deal. Speaking of Howie Roseman, obviously he was asked about A.J. Brown once again, and saw on Twitter that some people were kind of complaining about his comments. His quote says, "I understand that there's interest in the A.J. Brown story. My answer to any question on A.J. Brown is A.J. Brown is a member of the Eagles. From my perspective, anything you ask me about A.J. Brown, I'll go right back to that answer." So I guess some people want him to just flat out say they're not going to trade A.J. Brown. I don't understand why he would do that, because as a good general manager, you're going to entertain and at least hear offers for A.J. Brown. I mean, we saw what Jalen Waddle fetched. We saw what DJ Moore fetched. So why would Howie Roseman just shoot down the possibility of trading A.J. Brown if a team is willing to pay up the price that has been known since the get-go pretty much, which has been a first-round pick and a top 100 pick for Brown services? So obviously A.J. Brown's still under contract. He is still a member of the Philadelphia Eagles, and Howie Roseman said at the end of the season that he's in the business of acquiring talents like A.J. Brown, not getting rid of players like A.J. Brown. So, again, I don't think Howie Roseman is looking to move the wide receiver unless he is wowed by a package from another team. And it certainly seems that most teams don't want to fork up the high draft capital. New England does seem to be the only logical fit with A.J. Brown's history with Mike Vrabel, with his fandom of the Patriots growing up as a child. So, yeah, there's always going to be discussions about, is this going to happen? But right now, Howie Roseman's probably going to sit pat for the time being, and we'll see what transpires. Now, draft day could change a lot of things. If New England says, hey, we'll give you our first round pick, it'll be a later pick, but you get 2 first rounds at 23 and 31, if you will. Okay, then maybe you think about it. But we all know the cap implications. They trade him before June 1. It's $40-some million on the books. If he trades him after that date, then you could spread that money out over 2 years. But I didn't have a problem with Howie Roseman's comments, and I thought that that's what he should say as a general manager. You should field calls about all of your players because you never know what it could lead to. So, I've been saying that on this show. I don't think A.J. Brown will be traded. I find it hard to believe that there's some people out there that think the Eagles would be better off without A.J. Brown. I'm just in the room and in the boat where you remove a perennial 1,000-yard receiver. It's hard to convince me that an offense gets better by doing that. So we'll see what the Eagles do. Obviously, if they take a wide receiver in the first round, then that's probably the writing on the wall. More than likely that AJ is going to be out. But for the time being, I have no problem with what Howie Roseman said yesterday at the NFL owners meeting. Now, moving forward, as we get closer to the draft, we take another look at another NFL mock draft. This is from NFL.com, and it is Mike Band of NFL Next Gen Stats. And at pick number 23, he has the Eagles taking Caden Proctor, the offensive tackle out of Alabama. He writes, few teams are as comfortable investing in the offensive line before the need becomes urgent than Philadelphia. That has been central to Howie Roseman's roster building philosophy for years. The Eagles return all 5 O-line starters in 26, but Proctor would let them stay a step ahead with a rare-sized tackle who could be developed as a long-term insurance outside and, if needed, offer inside flexibility sooner. Now, this isn't the first time I've heard Caden Proctor's name linked to the Eagles in terms of being a potential target that Philadelphia could land on at pick number 23. He measured in at 352 pounds at the NFL Combine. That is noteworthy because he played above that weight his entire college career almost. Really, he played above 360. He had a 32.5-inch vertical leap, which set a combine record for players over 350 pounds, and that bested the previous watermark by 2 inches. So those numbers certainly will keep him in that first round discussion. Obviously, his experience playing in the SEC will certainly help, and his size. He can move guys off the block, especially in the run. He's got gap power. Run blocking is where he shines. Fires downhill, displaces defenders off the ball consistently. His pass blocking is a little suspect, according to some scouting reports, and a little too inconsistent for being a 3-year starter. Something interesting as well, his zone blocking is a little shaky for a tackle at the combine. Takes poor angles to the second level and kind of loses track of linebackers. So that'll be something interesting to keep an eye on because it does seem like Sean Mannion will implement more of a zone running scheme for Philadelphia in his first year as the OC. So obviously Proctor would not be a plug-and-play type player unless there was a really bad injury to one of the starting 5. Obviously he won't go in at center, but the Eagles have been dealing with some injuries up front lately. Obviously we saw Cam Jurgens banged up. We saw Lane Johnson banged up. I mean, it has been a pretty tough go as of late up front for the Philadelphia Eagles, and Howie Roseman will need to try and fill the void and look ahead in the future. So I do think that Caden Proctor could be a solid pick. I do think the Eagles will go with an offensive line with that first round selection. Who it might be obviously is up for debate, but Caden Proctor certainly has been a name that has been floating around a lot with the Philadelphia Eagles with their need and where they sit in the first round with a pick at number 23. So we'll see what happens there. I haven't seen anything about the Eagles using a top 30 visit on Caden Proctor, but there's still some time for that as well. But Philadelphia definitely should look into re-bolstering that offensive line. And I think if you bring in Proctor, a guy who's played in the SEC, he can learn from all the offensive linemen, and he could kind of get groomed and develop and not have the pressure of having to perform right away, as we've seen some of these other first-round offensive linemen have to do across the league. So Caden Proctor at number 23. Let me know your thoughts in the comments about him. And most importantly, subscribe. Hit that button, please. It would mean a lot to me. And hit that like button as well. And drop a comment. I've been enjoying interacting with you tuning in. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think about Caden Proctor at 23? Do you think Howie Roseman has to explicitly say they're not trading A.J. Brown? What do you think about the new edge that they brought in? Do you want them to make a home run splash, or do you want them to attack the edge position in the draft? How are you feeling about this Eagles offseason right now? So would love to hear from you. Again, this is Eagles Latest on FanArch. We've got a whole week of discussion coming your way. The NFL owners meetings are also underway. Believe we'll hear from Howie Roseman in the next day or two as well. So keep your eyes out for that. And obviously stay locked in to Eagles Latest as we bring you the latest and greatest about the birds here on FanArch. Have a great Monday and a great start to your week. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.